Have fun.
Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana.
I'm your host, May.
And today we're on Instagram Live because I don't know why. I was just like putting a bunch of shrimp down my throat. That sounds weird, but it's true. And I was like, yeah, we're going to go Instagram Live this. So our guest today is the one and only Maddie Callender.
Hi, guys.
Maddie's been practicing yoga for 2 years. She is famous on the Yoga Chat. If you have listened to any of our episodes, you've heard us talk about Maddie. She is originally from Massachusetts, but lives in Pittsburgh, Mount Lebanon, for those of you that know what that means. And a fun fact about Maddie is that, like, obviously there are a bunch of people that love Taylor Swift, but Maddie is either first or second in line behind Haley as her absolute biggest fan.
That's good.
I made up that, I didn't make it up. I chose that fun fact. Maddie, do you want to give another fun fact?
I can't dispute that, first of all.
I have a fun fact about
We're on the
Maddie.
same level. Haley and I are on the same level. But
That's fair.
no, and I'm one day going to marry Joe Jonas. So that's like a future fun fact, but that's not a current fun fact. But
Eventually.
that is the one that's basically embodies me. At least everybody that meets me. So I'll let that one slide. That's good. Yeah.
I love it.
Hey, Maddie, why don't you tell us a fun fact about your brothers?
I
Just
knew.
kidding.
Okay,
Maddie
so they
said
might
this
listen
before
to
we
this,
started
and I
recording.
need you to be tame, okay? Because they'll definitely tune in. So you're done, May, for the day.
You're done.
At this point, I'm only saying it because it bugs you, and now I just have to keep.
Sure.
I have to keep diving into it.
What
So,
if you were given the opportunity?
give our
Another fun fact about
Yeah.
Maddie is that we laugh a lot. So like we don't really have to do anything, but like if I just look at her face, I start laughing, and if she just looks at my face, I start laughing. And so we are going to try to get through this hour with being semi-serious, but also this might be a shit show of laughter.
We'll see.
Most likely.
We'll see what happens.
You're my work jester. I can't help it.
Yeah. We people have work wives and spouses. Me and Maddie are each other's work jester, our funny little guy that is there for emotional support.
Well, you walked out of the bathroom when you choked on a fly, and I dropped to my knees laughing when you couldn't breathe. And I don't know why I thought that was the funniest thing I've seen all day. So, anyways,
Me dying.
It was bad. May
Yeah.
was dying. So for those of you who've been living under a rock, we know Maddie because she works at Yoga 6 with us as a wellness advisor. I almost said as the head wellness advisor, but that doesn't exist.
Not that I know of, yeah.
That would be Kat, I guess, and then Julie. They're the head wellness advisors. But yeah, Maddie is a wellness advisor at the studio, and wellness advisor is a fancy name for, you want to give a description?
Yeah, I mean, you work the front desk, but it's definitely a lot more than that because you're doing sales and you're on the phone with people. But you're the first point of contact for everybody that comes in. Anyone that's either curious about yoga, coming in for a class in general, or just wants to like learn about the studio. So it kind of is cool because you take them through the journey of learning about the classes and then taking it and then maybe getting a membership and then watching their yoga journey unfold. And then you're also doing like laundry and other mundane activities, but a lot of it is that computer work and being your first point of contact for the studio.
Yeah, which is a big job.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have we wouldn't have nearly as many people in the right classes
Oh yeah,
as prepared as they are. If it weren't for you guys.
lots of questions for sure. But no, it's cool. It's kind of like a mini manager position in a way because you are there most of the time by yourself. So it's a lot of responsibility, but it's nice because you kind of just get to learn a lot. Literally every day I ask a different question. And I was like, I've been here for almost 2 years. How the fuck do I not know this yet? But you know what? Like, it's okay. Cause it's always a learning opportunity every day. And the environment I'm in allows me to ask as many questions as I want without sounding stupid. So yeah.
I second that as the teacher. Also, sorry to interrupt, but I have a ratchet house that doesn't have central air, and this thingy just turned on. Can you hear the buzz in the background, or do we still sound okay?
I can still hear you okay.
Okay, great. If that ever changes, just stop me.
I think you guys could talk a tiny bit louder just because you're farther away from the computer. Or zoom in. Getting a nice cleavage shot there. Thank you, Montana.
Oh, no.
Is that better?
Instagram Live, getting a little peep show.
We just both hit our funny bones.
that-
It's so funny.
Is that better, May?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Maddie, I don't know this about you. What is your sun sign and your big three, if you know it?
Okay, so I do know them, but it's actually funny because before I started at Yoga 6, I didn't know like anything about like astrological signs or anything. And at the time, like last year, my Snapchat updated and it was like, hey, do you want to know your big three? And I was like, hell yeah, I'm learning about this now. So I'm reading through it and I was like, okay, got it, got it. And then we did a workshop. I believe her name was Erin. She did like an astrological birth chart workshop. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, like now that I know my big three, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna learn about it. And I'm sitting there and I really resonate with my son. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they get to the moon and rising. And I'm like looking around like, shit, I don't really relate to this at all, but maybe I don't get it. And everyone's like nodding. And I was like, damn, like, am I doing something wrong? Like, I'm confused. And I leave and I was like, well, I really feel like my son makes sense, but let me just go back to Snapchat. Okay. I didn't put my birthday in right.
Oh
Like,
my God.
Wrong year, wrong day. First of all, no wonder I didn't get birthday snaps on my birthday. And I was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh, well, that adds up. So I went back to like Cafe Astrology, whatever the website was. I was like, okay, birthday, birthplace, time of birth. I'm like bothering my mom with these questions, and she's like, please stop. Like, I'm actually begging you. But I put all the information correctly. My son's was still the same, and I scroll down to my moon and rising, and I'm reading it, and I like slam my laptop shut because it's too personal. Like now it's like, oh, this adds up. And I was like, I actually would have rather had them incorrectly because now this hurts my feelings. That being said,
It's a real quick flip.
I'm an Aquarius sun, a Virgo moon, and a Cancer rising.
Hmm.
From what I remember and what the parts that I paid attention to the workshop, because I was paying attention to the incorrect parts, which would a waste of time for me. I'm gonna have to have her do that again. From my understanding, Aquarius sun is like you want to stray from the norm. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because I feel like I've been resonating with that at least in the last 2 years. And then, but it's interesting because I think a Virgo moon needs the like structure to function.
Yeah.
And they pay to details. And then when I was reading the rising portion, it was like you get easily flustered in public. And I was like, I know that, but hey, like what the hell? So that's when I was like, I'm not listening to that. I'm not gonna read that portion. So anyway, that was just a quick anecdote, but those are my three.
It actually tracks a lot. I would have
It
guessed
does.
that there was Virgo and Cancer in your chart.
I don't even know
You're an
enough.
emotional little baby.
Great. All right, I think we're done here, actually.
She's leaving. She's leaving. Cool. We haven't done this in a while, but I'm gonna pull a card because Nicole, who was our Oracle card reading butterfly episode, gifted me the sacred symbols for say that word so I'm
That's
not
okay.
embarrassed.
Sound it out.
There you go. The word is
It's an eyeball.
divination. I don't know what that means. Like being divine.
Like
Yeah.
divinity, yeah.
Yeah, like divinity, but it's divination. Is that how you say it?
Sure.
Sure. Sacred symbols for divination. That does not feel right. And meditation for divinity. That's what we're gonna say.
Yeah.
I would have known how to read that. And meditation. So now that I've made a fool of myself, we're gonna pull a card. Fun fact: this was on the bottom. This guides one is Catherine Geniak, who owns the retreat. Got this tattooed on her in Mexico when we were just there in Tulum, and she doesn't have any tattoos. It was her very first one. And I have the transformation butterfly from this deck on my arm. So it's a cool deck. And Uncle Scott has the same transformation butterfly on his wrist. So if we're all getting tattoos, there was another one of my new friends, her name's Lynn. We should have her on the podcast at some point. She got a bracelet, she made a bracelet or bought a bracelet that like represented the card that she pulled, and she was in Ohio. You met Lynn.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love your bracelet. She goes, thanks. You guys all got tattoos and I chose to get a bracelet.
Just keeping it
Go
real.
Lynn.
Yeah. She's like, I can take them off whenever I want. All right, Maddie, you split the deck. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna let go. There we go. And I'm
What a good start.
All right, May, are we gonna pull 1 card or 3 cards?
Pull 3 cards, one for each of
I
us.
like that. The first one is affluence.
Okay.
The next one is past life.
Mhm.
Fancy.
Mhm.
And the last one is karmic path. Those are all really fun. So I'm gonna read the guidebooks just so that I can be as clear as possible. So affluence, wealth in all forms is available to you now. You're rich on all accounts. Drawing this card invites you to feel the abundant flow of having all that you need on the material and spiritual planes. If you are inquiring about a situation or relationship, this certainly indicates that there is much to be experienced here. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. You are being provided for and rewarded at this time. So that
Wow.
feels right for what we're about
Take
to
it.
do. Past life. Does this mean that we've known each other for many lives?
Maybe I really was a court jester and Maddie was like a queen of Scotland, and we
No, it
followed
has
each other into this new life.
calling to
England,
England. That's
And May was your gesture.
May was on the streets.
Why can I like actually see it?
Jeez.
And you guys were best friends and you had to hide your friendship because she was royalty and she wasn't allowed to like
It's
actually
royalty.
be friends with
My
you.
God.
Like, get away from me, peasant. Meet me in the back room for tea.
Yeah.
Forbidden love, but platonic.
Yes.
Forbidden platonic.
So past life says you're being drawn to sacred spaces, ancient knowledge, past lives, ancient wisdom, and holy gifts. The connection to your current relationship or situation has deep roots and is perhaps much more than you may have anticipated. Dive into ancient wisdom for your answers at this time. Drawing this card can indicate past life connection, karmic contracts, vows, commitments, or even feelings of atonement. Draw another card if additional clarity or direction in how to proceed is required. You can meditate with the pyramid to access ancient magic, create sacred space, welcome informative galactic downloads from the universe, and encourage ascension for your body, mind, and spirit. So I don't know where I fit into that past life story, but I was there somewhere.
You witnessed it from afar.
But also like I witnessed it.
Yeah.
Affluence, past life, and then karmic path, like they all track. So karmic path, karmic lesson, learning experience, hard work, perseverance, and structure. A new and valuable lesson is available to you at this time. This moment requires your due diligence. Pay attention to what is being presented to you. Have you been down this road before? Our souls come to this earth school to learn valuable lessons as beings and for the planet. What are you being taught right now? This moment may require hard work, but it will have many long-lasting rewards. You're not being punished, but are gaining tools and experience for living that will be with you for the rest of your life. Drawing this card also tells you that the foundation of what you're building is strong and is part of your legacy.
Wow. I think we got 3 good cards, ladies.
I'm just going to leave those there. So affluence, past life, and karmic path. All right.
So, May, does this mean we have to go to London and you just start jigging in the street and see what
Jigging.
happens? Is that the plan?
I could actually, Maddie, I could see you being a royal member of a royal family who is like fully against what the actual
Yeah.
family stands for, and you break all the rules on the sly and you follow suit, for appearances. But I could see you being a straight up rebel back in the royal family, and me encouraging you to break free from the mold and being your jester on the sly.
I'm gonna start writing a book about that, actually. That
I
sounds
think
like
that's a fun idea.
Um,
Please dedicate the book to us
Wait,
Yeah.
because
do you watch Bridgerton?
yes, you remind me of
Kinda like-
Eloise.
I was also thinking of Penelope and like Lady Whistledown. Sorry to anybody, I just 2 seasons of that, but that's all I
Whatever. If they don't know that Penelope is Lady Whistledown by now, they're not real Bridgerton fans.
That's so true. But yeah.
Montana, have you watched Bridgerton?
No, I
You
like
should.
don't watch anything.
First of all, it's not even my jam. One day I was like watching it out of a rebellion because I had the house to myself, and I was like, I'm gonna watch something that I couldn't watch if my family was here. And I
Yeah.
put on Bridgerton, and the first 2 episodes I was like, this is bullshit. And then Sexy Eyebrow came into the mix, and I was like, oh, hello. And then I was just
In.
fully in. You
So
gotta
I
watch.
watch it. Everyone
You should
said,
watch.
"Hey, Haley just joined." I was like, "Ooh, I have to wait and make sure." I'm like, whoever that is, I think it's Haley, but if it's not Haley,
Take a
I'm
breath.
gonna act just
Take a
as
breath.
excited for whoever you are.
Take a breath.
Okay, so let's reel it in a tad.
Yeah.
Maddie, will you tell us about your background and like what led you eventually to a yoga mat?
Yeah. So I would say it was the spring of like 2022, so a little over 2 years now. I was finishing up my second year at Ohio State and feeling just like absolutely burnt out. Like I knew I was stressed out. I knew everybody gets stressed out in college, but it was like to a point where like I would wake up and I could not find the motivation to like even make a meal, work out, do anything. And I was like, this is normal. It's fine to be this stressed. And I would talk to my friends and they're like, I'm overwhelmed too. And I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to like get through it. It's fine. And I was just like, I don't even think I can finish this semester. And like, think my mom is just one of my biggest supporters always. And she was like, you got this, like, just power through. And it was like May 2022 at this point, and I was like, I'm done with this semester. I'm done with school. Like, all I know is I can't physically, I don't even know if I can do another day. Like, it was just that bad. And I didn't know that that was like all signs of like severe anxiety and depression at the time. And I was more just like, I just hate school and that's just the way it is. And I think part of it's also that Aquarius where I don't like fitting into a box constantly, but I just knew I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I finished the semester and I was like, well, I'll just kind of exist. And for that period, at least like June, July, I just genuinely felt like a shell of a person, which like I don't say that lightly at all. It was going about and like hanging out with people, but I was like, I don't feel like me. And I thought that it was just school that was causing that anxiety. But I think it's me. I'm the problem. And I don't mean to quote Taylor Swift there, but I did. So, and I had started therapy like for the first time, and I'm on like Zoom with her, and she's like, have you considered that maybe like you are the issue? And I was like, fuck this. And I like slammed my laptop shut. I was like, what does she thinks she's talking about? She's right. Absolutely right. But you know, at the time you don't want to hear any of that. So she definitely helped me kind of like realize like what was going on and like the deep rooted issues. But I still was like in a huge space of denial. So I would say it was like in June. My mom now works for the American Cancer Society, and they do an event called Relay for Life every year, just to raise money for all forms of cancer. And we've been like a part of it since we lived in Massachusetts. And I think they just did their 15th year in Mount Lebanon recently. And I didn't even like want to go. I barely wanted to do anything that summer. And you think like you're done with school, like let's go out and do everything. I didn't realize like maybe you are showing signs of depression, that nothing is giving you joy. But I was like, no, I'm just overwhelmed. There was quite literally nothing to be overwhelmed by, but that's just like the space I was in. So my mom encouraged me to go to Relay. And I believe that was the first time that Yoga 6 was a part of it, because I think you guys just hit your second year being open, or maybe like first. And I knew they were doing like a class on the field. My mom was like, come on, do it. And I was like, I don't do yoga. And she's like, well, like, why not? I was like, I just don't do yoga. I don't know how to. Like, I'm not the type of person that could do yoga. I don't even know what that meant. Like, is that a thing? I don't know.
A lot of people think that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
at
it
the
is.
time, I was like, I don't look like any of those people. Nobody looked the same. So again, like it was just creating all of those like excuses. And my mom has been practicing yoga for like decades. So she was like, come on, it'll be super chill. And I was like, oh my God, fine. So I go to the center of the field. It's hot as shit. Like I was just like, this is not ideal for me. And I was already like out of my body in general. And I believe it was Dara teaching it, because I remember just like feeling like this sense of, I can't even like fully describe the vibe that I felt like on that field. Like when you're outside doing yoga, it's very different than being in a studio, but which I didn't know that at the time. But I just felt like, okay, try something different. It's okay. Like genuinely, like a little voice in my head was like, you can do this. And the mat was like blisteringly hot. And I was like, you're trying to find so many reasons to hate this. Just let yourself feel it. So it was like a 35-minute class, like cat cow, like very much like kind of like a 101, I believe is like what they put on. And for the first time, I was like being cued to breathe. And for someone who like woke up every day with migraines. Like I went to the dentist because I thought I had a dental problem. Turns out I was just clenching my teeth because I was so stressed out. They were like, no, you should probably seek help. Like that's not the same thing here. We can't help your dental problems. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I finished the class and I was like, oh, I feel different, but I don't really think I still don't think it's for me. Like I was still in this denial phase because I didn't want to like assume that would like quote unquote fix my problems. But I was like, wow, I just like breathed for 35 minutes and didn't think about anything negative. Like I was just like in my body and it felt like that was the first time I had tapped into it in 2.5 years. And again, like I held on to that feeling, but I was like, nope, still not for me. So I went back the rest of that summer and my mom started going to Yoga 6 as a member. And she's like, I think you would really like it. Like you liked the class on the field, like just so encouraging. And I don't know what it is when somebody's like, you should do this, you should do this. And I was like, I know I need to do it, but like, let me get to the point where I'll make that decision. And eventually,
Virgo.
there you go.
I was gonna say, I think that's called being stubborn.
Thank you. The way she goes, Virgo. And you're like, no, that's actually a different term, but that's fine. So I want to say like, I also knew I needed a job too, because I was like, I knew I was done with school. I didn't even know if I was going to go back at this point, but I knew I had to do something with my days. And my previous like part-time jobs were like not ideal, as you know. And I'm not going to name drop, but not ideal. So I was dreading the idea of even like going someplace like 7 hours a day and just being like, I already like can barely go about my days normally. And my mom was like, I think Yoga 6 is hiring, yada, yada. Again, being so encouraging. And I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I woke up one day in like August and I was like, went on Indeed like a sim. Like, I don't even know, like my brain was not programmed. And I just applied and then shut my laptop and like didn't say a word. I was like, okay. And then, I mean, eventually I went through the interview process and just like walking into the studio, first of all, there's a smell in that studio. And I don't even know. 2 years later, I don't even know what that scent is. It smells.
I don't know if
damn
I don't know if
good.
I'm allowed to give it away.
I know what it is.
Yeah, we're
Like-
not going to tell anyone. This is going to be like a secret menu. So I'll tell you when we're off air what it is, Maddie.
Perfect. Thank
And
you.
if you're listening right now and you want to know, well, I don't know what you gotta do, but you gotta do something.
Yeah.
You got to pay us $20.
That's it.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
like a
that's
low
not
bar.
true. That is not accurate.
You're gonna
All
get
right.
like 4 Venmo requests.
Yeah. Give us
But,
$20.
Give
anyway.
us your money.
And I just remember like walking in and I just was like overwhelmed with it, but not in a way where I was like, what the fuck is this smell? It was more of just like it felt like I was in a different world. Is that a cuckoo clock that I just heard?
Yeah, it's in my kitchen.
That is so real. Okay.
I like
Anyway.
how she looked at me like I'd be the one with the
I
cuckoo
know.
clock.
I know. I know, she looked right at you and I was like, yeah, it's mine in the other room.
Just made
Surprise.
sorry. So yeah, I went through the interview process and like you do have to take a class at one point. So I was trying to schedule it and I was like, let's do a 6 a.m. slow flow. And I was telling my mom and she's like, what the hell? Like you don't wake up after like 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. And I was like, mind your business. I can do it. Like it'll be fine. And she's like, I don't know who this is, but like I'm very excited because clearly it's different than the person I've seen. And like bless her and dealing with like being so patient with me for so long. And so I woke up at like 4 a.m. for this class. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like the SpongeBob meme. That was actually very
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Yeah. I was so like anxious because I was like, well, don't be late because there's that perfectionism that I crafted for myself like when I was in school. And I think I pulled into like the top lot because I knew that's where I was supposed to go. And I didn't see any cars. So I was like, oh, I'm either early, but my brain was like, well, what if there's like a secret parking lot and everybody's parked there and they started the class without you? You should go in right now because that makes sense. That's a sane thing to think.
Totally.
And I'm dead ass. That's literally what happened. So I walk in, the doors aren't even open. I'm thinking like, oh my God, they locked it. Like they don't want me in. Like that's literally the anxiety that was
5:15.
Like the Galleria mall security was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm here for yoga. Like I remember this so vividly and I still apologize to her about this, but Kat came in and she was like, who, like, basically, who are you? And you're here so early. And I felt so bad. And again, like, I don't know if Kat is ever going to listen to this, but I'm so sorry still. And again, like, such a great interaction with her. And then I took this class and I was in the back row and I was like, no idea what I was doing because it had been a couple months since the first class at Relay for Life. But there was like sweat pouring down my face. And I'm like, am I this like out of shape? No, you just are doing something different. Like your body's not used to this. And I remember like looking around and seeing everybody like mingling with each other before class. And I was like, this is so cool. It just feels like everybody just knows each other. But then again, like for me, I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And I still feel nervous, but I didn't feel out of place. Like, oh, I shouldn't be here. And the class is going on. And I remember it was Bailey and she put on a Jonas Brothers song. And I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like it here. That's great. So I like made a mark about that. But I remember looking around while I was practicing and everybody was like, obviously you're being cued, but everybody was doing something different. And that was equally acceptable to doing like the peak pose or going into a headstand. Like it was just as cool to like lay down the entire time as it was to do something like absolutely insane. And I was just like, my mind was blown. My perfectionism that I had crafted for so long, because in my brain I was like, well, do what they're telling you to do. And like, even if that doesn't feel great, like you should still do that because that's what they might be expecting you to do. And I was like, that doesn't seem like it exists in here. And I was so like thrown off because when you go about your day, and again, I don't even remember when I crafted this like perfectionist mindset. I had to have been like late elementary school, early middle school. Thank you for diagnosing.
I love Virgos.
Well,
I do. I married one.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It
for
is,
sure.
it is.
And again, I crafted that like very early on, and I don't blame like the school system, but obviously like when you're in a very, very good school system, they are encouraging you to like constantly think 5 years ahead. And that like where you're like, okay. And you can't catch a breath, but you're just like, this is normal, this is fine. And it's normal to be anxious at 7:30 in the morning every single day for 12 years. Like that's just like, I didn't think it was anxiety. I thought, wow, I'm just really fucking scared to go to school. What? Like now I think of it like when I'm outside of it, and obviously it's hindsight bias, but I realized that bled into all aspects of my life. And I, again, like through therapy and practicing yoga, I didn't realize it was until certain issues would come up. But when I was in that room and practicing, I was just like, wow, like nobody is trying to be somebody that they're not. Like no one's being graded. No one's expecting to show up a certain way. You're literally expected to show up as you are, which is just you. Like I was shook, like genuinely, like still trying to form words. And after that class, I remember like I had never had that kind of natural energy just from like being by myself, moving and breathing ever. Like I've never experienced that. Like I would be a gym goer constantly. I did like track and basketball in high school, but nothing made me feel like that alive. And especially like at that point where I thought like I will never feel good again, and that's kind of what I expected. I was like, oh my God, I think I need this. And I like it was 7:30 in the morning. I felt like I was on crack. I went to get a smoothie, I cleaned my room, I cleaned the house, and I was like, I can't believe like normally I'd still be sleeping or waking up and like scrolling on my phone and being like, God, I don't even want to start the day. This sucks so bad. And like there was nothing to pinpoint about what sucked about my day. That's just what the mindset I had was. And I was like, I need to hang on to this somehow. And I mean, I think a couple weeks later, I started working at Yoga 6. And then that's when the whole practice just kickstarted. I just hit my 200th class like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yay.
It's crazy to think about like how everything played out. But I mean, just I was so scared to like take like a hot and power class because I was like, I was sweating every single organ out of me in slow flow. Like, how am I going to do a power class? And it was Maze. Like you did a Taylor Swift versus Kanye class. And I was legally, like I have to be there. Like it's in the name.
I forgot you did that, May.
And
that was pre Kanye being canceled, FYI.
Yeah.
No one canceled May. She didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Preface. But and I like loved it. Like I loved like the speed of it and like the sweat on my face. And I was just like, wow, like I started to just take more classes, and the ones I struggle the most with are restore, because I think it's the one I need the most to slow down, and my brain is like at that high frequency. So I love like hot and power because you're just going, going, going. And I remember, I think it was like the first or second class I took of yours, May, and you were like, if you fall out of it, who gives a shit? And I was like, oh, we can say that here.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Or like, who does give a shit? And like, that's just like every day I'm like, well, if I don't get 100% on this, or if I don't do this, like, well, no one's watching you. Like, it's okay. Like, you can mess up. It's fine. And to be told that, like, by myself for the first time, that it's okay to fall out, it's okay to not be perfect, I felt like I was starting to break away this habit that I never ever thought I would break, literally 12, 13 years. So that was just absolutely mind blowing. And it's just been a constant process for the last 2 years and ongoing as well. But yeah, yeah, that I just got off my soapbox there.
Crying. God damn it.
You make May cry. We need to have a club for the people that make May cry.
Yeah. I make you laugh and cry. I'm a double package
May just mouthed fuck.
It also
dare
coincides
you.
with the people too. I mean, I know we had recently talked about like certain instructors and like their music tastes. And I mean, obviously like Haley, I mean, like I started, I think 2 weeks before Haley started, and she was like, I thought you'd work in here for 6 months. I was like, fake it till you make it, babe. Fake it till you make it. And no, I mean, we had the exact same music taste. And I remember I started taking her classes really frequently, and I was just like, where has this fucking person been all my life? Like this, I mean, now I see her as quite literally a platonic soulmate. Like, I just can't imagine my life without her. And I haven't even known her for over a year and a half. Like it's mind blowing. And it's like the practice like has been helping me, but also the people that have come into play is just like, and I don't know. And I think also I was breaking a lot of those. I had a very negative mindset constantly and was constantly angry at things. And I think it was just recently talking to Dara about like embracing your cringe and being more open about like talking about things that you think that are lame. And it's like, no, that's you. Like, it's okay. And I was like, what have I not been walking around as myself since I started here? Like, that's kind of how it feels. And I mean, I don't even say this lightly. I genuinely think like being a part of this community quite literally saved my life. Like, I don't know who I would be if I just kept moseying around as a shell of a person and never practice. I'm not saying like yoga was the number one cure, but like it led me to these people that just altered the trajectory of my life in the last 2 years. And I see it continuing that way. Yeah.
No, we're both
Shit.
crying. May is not okay.
I love to hear that because I feel the same way. I wasn't going through as dark of a time as it sounds like you were going through, but I also just feel like for some reason, and I can't really figure it out, it does, that place does have this like special ability to make you feel okay being who you are. And like feeling okay being who you are changes you. It's just like a really wonderful place to be. And so it's just like cool to hear it from another person that feels the same way. And I'm with you. Like I have, it's not just one person that makes me feel like that. It's like the collective of all of us and the way we all somehow have gravitated towards this like space where we're all just freakishly ourselves and we totally give permission to each other to freakishly be ourselves. And it's just kind of like I feel a lot of gratitude for it, and it's cool to hear it from you from a different perspective, coming from a different situation that the same exact thing happened to you. Just makes me emotional.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because I remember I just had so much anxiety when I started, and then I'd wake up for 5:30 shifts, which I couldn't even imagine a year prior to that, like ever agreeing to wake up that early. And those are the shifts that I prefer. Like I love starting my day there. I love welcoming people, and like you're the first point of contact. Like obviously, yeah, there are some not so nice people that early in the morning. You'd be surprised how many Those I do come across, but then there are people where it's like, you get to decide like how you speak to them and the vibe that you create and they walk into, and like that's how their day starts. And honestly, like, yeah, that does make a difference. Like even taking a yoga class at 6 a.m., that totally makes a difference in how your day goes. Just taking an hour to yourself, or like having like a vulnerable conversation at 5:50 in the morning. Like people do that. And sometimes they clearly needed somebody to listen to them. And if I'm that person, that's great. Or if they just want like a soundboard, that's great too. So, I mean, I also just think about like the people that we like are a part of our team. It's so amazing because I feel like all of us are able to bring out the best in each of us, and there's no ego. Like everybody genuinely is on their own level and brings something different to the table. And I mean, like Hannah has just like totally changed my perspective about like so many different aspects of my life and just the way that I was like carrying myself. And like she introduced me to meditation, which I never would have thought I would take 5 minutes out of my day to like breathe. And how much of a difference that makes is crazy. It's 5 minutes, but it adds up every day. And I remember when I did end up going back to school, my very first assignment was to just like write about a certain aspect to your identity. And that could be religion, spirituality, mental, physical health. So I was just like, shit, I don't even know where to start, but I could already feel my perfectionism kicking in. And I'm like, just do it. It's a piece of paper at the end of the day. Like, take a breath. So I would start doing the meditations, and I'm like, you just be yourself, like on paper. And like writing's kind of the only thing that I feel like is the way that I process the world. So I was like, write about like your mental health, and that's part of your identity. And I started writing about Yoga 6. And he wanted to be a 5-page paper. I wrote 15. And he was like, this is fine, but please just, stick to the guidelines next time. But also, this is great. And I was like, okay, sorry, I got carried away there. And the more I was like writing it out, and again, like sometimes you don't realize like how things impact you until you're speaking to somebody, or for me, at least writing it down. And it's weird because like when I'm journaling, I'm like, is this okay to say? It's like, no one's reading it. It's you. Like, what do you mean, is this okay? Like, why do you feel like you need permission to feel a certain way? And I was writing it down. I was just like, wow, like there's just been this whole cycle. And like at that point, I hadn't even been there a year, and I felt like a different person. And I don't resonate with the person I was like a year ago, and I certainly don't recognize the person I was like 3 years ago, but for the better. And I just think there's a lot more freedom, like just day to day, and like less of a weight on my chest. And I don't want to say I owe it all to the people I've met, but like, yes, they've totally challenged my perspectives. They've seen me, like, I've just seen what it's like to live so freely. And I mean, like I did write about that in that paper. You're in that. I just never told you that until right now.
Hannah told me, and
Oh.
I never told you that I know because it's too much.
Yeah, I don't know why I never got a chance to, wow, sorry to drop that right now on this
I love
moment.
you.
I love you too. The way you just shook my
I know, I went to like hold it. You actually shook my hand. I was like, I love you. And Maddie literally goes, I love you too.
This is why we can't get like 10 minutes into something serious without it.
You're like, I actually wrote about you in that paper. No, it was
stock portfolio.
but she talked about how Hannah is the sun and I'm the earth.
Yeah.
And Hannah, she showed Hannah the paper, and Hannah sent me pictures of like my section, and I was like, what the actual fuck? I was like, who is this person? Like, I'd never felt so seen before. I can't really look at either of you right now. Like, you're just so aware, Maddie, and like you said, you process the world through writing, and it's so clear. I in my own way, like also I'm very connected to writing. This house, even though you can't really see them, is literally full of journals, full covered with writings that I have had since I was in high school, that I can't get rid of, that I won't get rid of. And I never even like recognized that about myself. It's just something that I have always done to cope. And it wasn't until like a few years ago that Matt was like, this house is filled with journals, filled with words that you have written. I'm like, what? And he's like, you're such a good, actually, the way he said it was, you're such a good note taker. And I was like, I'm not actually taking notes, but yeah, I guess I am in a way. So like to see your perception or perspective of Yoga 6 through your words that you wrote, I was just like, it gives me a similar feeling, kind of what like echoing what May said. Like hearing how this has been like impactful for you, the practice, the community, the space, because yeah, same. Like that's what May said, same for her. That's why we're all here. It's exactly what the other people that have been on the podcast who are part of Yoga 6 South Hills have said too. And for me, like it's these conversations where I remember that, because it's like we see the same people, the same like 400 people every week.
I think it's more than that now.
It is 600 total, but like
yeah.
400 that I don't know, whatever. I'm making up numbers. We see the same people and it's like I have to remember that like the reason we see the same people is because we're all making the choice to be there. And as soon as someone no longer wants to be there, then they make the choice not to. And that's also fine too. Like it's a stepping stone. We're gonna land wherever we land for as long as we're there. But like it's easy for me to forget how impactful this space is for so many people, because it's like we just continue to show up. But showing up is like, it's so simple, but it's a choice. And you wouldn't continue to make it if you didn't feel the impacts that it gives you and that it cultivates throughout your life. Because May and I have been here since the beginning, and like our owner, Chrissy, I was having a challenging few months ago with a different role of mine. And Chrissy, our owner, for those of you listening, she was like, hey, I just want to make sure that like you're still happy and that like your role here is still aligned with your goals. And I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, yes, it does. I was like, have I made you feel otherwise? And she's like, no. I just know that you have a lot of things going on. And I just want to make sure that like, I just want to like, no, I want you to know that this is like always an open dialogue. And like, if this doesn't ever feel like an alignment, and I was like, no, it does. This thing doesn't feel in alignment with me. Which just like you didn't talk about your other job, I'm not going to talk about mine. I was like, this thing doesn't feel in alignment with me. And like, I'm so sorry. I'm genuinely so sorry if I made you. Yeah, I'm going to show everybody that thing in a second. Hang tight. But yeah, like I in that moment was like, no, like I continue to choose this over and over again, day after day, because like it is so grounding. It is so fulfilling. Like you both have said, like I truly can walk in there and be myself in a way that like also like I'm not able to just be like, oh, that's how I am, so everyone deal with it. But it gives me like barriers to bounce up against so that I can actually be like, oh, this is who I am. That's who I want to be. And when I act this way, it's actually not in alignment with who I am. And when I act this way, it is, and things work out. So yeah, it's so much more than a yoga practice and a yoga studio. Now I'm going to show everyone what has happened this entire time. Instagrammers, this is how you know Maddie's a good person. And hang on, Instagram, we'll be right back.
Oh my God, is it Levi?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
He's literally been right there the whole time.
He's a good listener.
He is, and the Psycho Pants is in his crate. So,
but I
anyways,
isn't that just like that one sentence, like, or hey, just want to make sure that you are still happy, like just to check in. And it sounds like the bare minimum, but it makes you feel like a person.
Yeah.
And all of my other past jobs, I've never felt like a person. I felt like just someone I'm filling a role and just replaceable. But there it's like, hey, you have interests. Oh, hey, you have talent. Hey, I would love for you to explore this. It's like giving options. I mean, like the workshop that I got a chance to do and
talk
writing,
about that. Talk about that.
talk about that. Like, yeah. Okay. So
set a little tiny branch off.
Yeah. Sorry. Tiny tidbit. Which I know I gave you the whole thing of the retreat.
But I want the podcast.
So, it was actually the day of the Torture Poets Department release. Brittany, which love Britney. She made us all matching sweatshirts. So I was like repping it. I'm like, as if Taylor Swift's gonna walk into that damn studio and be like, thanks, that's so cool. I love that for you. You know, a girl can dream, Gallery of Mount Lebanon, please pull up. But I was playing the album and Chrissy in Montana walked in, and Chrissy's a Swiftie, and she was just like, how do you feel with the album? I was like, I can't talk about it right now. And then an hour went by and I was yapping for a while. I was like, I just think it's really cool that this song is related to this song from this album. And she's sitting there and she was just like, you should do a TED Talk. You should do this. I was like, I don't think anybody would want to actually listen to what I had to say about it. It's just something I love. And I mean, like, everybody knows that I like Taylor Swift, but like my infatuation with her, like, was started when I was like 7 or 8. And she had like these inserts in her CDs and she would basically just like capitalize certain letters in her lyrics. Cause she would always be like, I want my fans to listen to or read my lyrics. And some people were like, we don't care, just play Love Story and move on. So I was like, I want to read it. Like, that's cool. And I would just decode things. And then I was fascinated with her lyrics. And then I would start writing my own stuff. And honestly, that's just where my love for writing kicked off and has been since. So I feel like I'm very connected to her in that sense when it comes to writing. And I just pay attention to her lyrics and I feel very seen by them. And I know a lot of like women in general do feel very seen by her writing. And I was telling Chrissy about that too, and just the way that it's not even just about like a pop artist. There's just so much more that goes into it and how it can just be about like the raw human experience. And that weekend she was just like, what if you like did a workshop? And I was like, oh, that's funny. Like, I don't know. And then she was like, no, it could be like the tortured yogis department. And I was like, Chrissy, that's really funny, but that'd be really fun, but I don't know. And I was like, still like, can I do that? Like, is that a thing? Like, it's that imposter syndrome coming up. And I was like, of course I could talk about this. Like, I could talk about it forever. And I was like, I would love to do it with Haley and we could do a class. I mean, we're both equally insane and we'll put something amazing on, and that's just what it is. And I remember like the week of the workshop, we were like, should we change the description to like 2 perfectionists who are deeply afraid of failure talk about Taylor Swift? And we're like, that's a great idea, actually. So we established that we were going to do the workshop and everything, and we were going to have it be about like the rise and fall of love and really examine this album. And I remember Haley came over and we were really trying to craft this up for like 5 hours. For 20 minutes, we actually stood across from each other, just staring at each other. Like, it was kind of scary because you could see the wheels turning, but like, it was just steam. And like, we did not know what to do. And we're like, we know what to say, but how do we kickstart this? And at the time when that album was released, Taylor actually took her discography and broke it up into the 5 stages of grief. So we're like, maybe we could take that angle and just explore this album. And that's exactly what we did. We broke up the album into the 5 stages of grief and started with death, because every grieving process starts with death. And we wanted to end with this rebirth and rise. And we also like wanted to establish that we're not examining grief because that's a very sensitive topic to people, but more so how this album itself basically highlights how you can be in different stages of grief at one time. And just, if you strip her name of it, like, it's poetry, it's art. Like, this is exactly how you feel. Like, some people were like, I don't get this song. And it's like, she's tracking her boyfriend's location still because he still has it on and she saw him go into a bar. That's upsetting. Like, it's like you just take the Taylor Swift aspect and the pop arty-ness out of it, and you're like, it's actually, anybody has felt this way. Yep. So we put on, you're like, yeah, I've stalked my ex-boyfriend's location for sure.
Oh yeah, oh my God.
Yes, ma'am. Anyways.
Whenever my friends back in the day needed to know anything about a guy they were dating, they would give me his name, and in 5 minutes, I would be able to find out a lot of shit. They called me Nancy Drew.
She does that. Alyssa has some FBI skills. And that's why she's one of my best friends. So meanwhile, Nicole's like, I don't know. I was like, I love you so much. But anyway, so Haley, like, she is like, her tech skills go crazy. I don't know if it's like just Excel in general, but like, she made like a graphic of Winston. She goes, look, and I was like, how much time did you have? And she goes, no, sorry, here's the presentation. She put a whole she put a whole presentation together. And what we did is we pulled lyrics from the album and we're like, this is an example of denial. here's how it can relate to just the human experience of being in denial. And we just went through all the stages. And I wanted to like note too that you can be in multiple stages at once. Like that's just being a person. Like you can be angry, sad, and also just not even really sure if what just happened. So we put on, the workshop sold out, which was mind blowing. I was like, shit, people actually are going to come and listen to me talk. Like, you guys just want to do that? Are you sure? And Haley curated this flow. And at the time we were like, well, we want all of the songs that we talk about to be in the flow, because when you're talking about the song and you hear it matching to breath and movement, it's a totally different experience. Like you hear a song in Shavasana, I'm like, fuck, this is good. And then you put it on the car, you're like, this does not get the same.
So true.
100%.
Yeah. So we realized though that like we were talking about so many songs that this flow would be 60 minutes and would leave us like 20 minutes to talk. And we're yappers. We're not going to cap out at 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not going to be a thing. So Haley cut it down to 35. And again, these songs are like 5 minutes. So it's only gives us a chance to really practice to 7 songs. So we were arguing like elderly people, like trying to decide which this one. Well, I like this one. And then she stared at me. She was like, okay, we'll take that one off. So she did like a beautiful flow, and it was honestly brilliant. Just like the heart openers that she had in like representation to the very vulnerable lyrics that we were dissecting. And then she had a lot of like balancing postures too, just to describe like the fall from grace. It was just very like brilliantly orchestrated. And at the end, I put together a journaling portion, and I knew I wanted the prompts to be more geared towards them in general. Cause like, well, we just examine how one person deals with their own emotions and how it relates to you, but like, how do you process the world? Like everybody processes it differently. Some people go running, and that's you. No, you go running, right? You're like, wait, I'm retired. Did you?
I'm actually gonna run today at like after this with Kaja. I'm gonna do my first long run, but that's besides the point. I don't know if I do that for like that
to process it. But again, people, that's just an example.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. People do that.
Yeah.
Kaja probably does.
You know what? Bless. So it was so cool because I was up there and I'm like sitting in like the teacher mat, and I was like, how the hell did I get here? And I was like, are we sure I'm supposed to be up here? And like
looking the wrong way.
I was like, damn, I don't think this is right. But it didn't, genuinely, imposter syndrome is so real. And
It is.
I was watching before I even like finished the first prompt, people were just pen to paper immediately. And that's exactly what I was hoping for, because you're getting very vulnerable. And it was interesting because we didn't plan for people to like speak out and open the floor. And we were hoping that people would, but it honestly became like a women's circle. Like people were like, this song reminds me of this time in my life, or people were getting very vulnerable. And I know it's the vibe that Yoga 6 creates in that safe space that like a lot of people felt in general who were members that were there. But the majority were people who'd never been to the studio, and they still felt comfortable to speak about very like vulnerable aspects of their life in relation to this music. And I think that was like our goal, to show how this is a very vulnerable album, and it helps a lot of people process their emotions, and it helps a lot of people process grief. And it was just fucking cool to watch people talk about this in front of strangers and know that like what's said there stays there, and that's okay because we all feel it. And so after you do that and you pair it to breath and movement, and I'm hearing these songs are in Shavasana, and I was like, don't fucking cry, because you need to get up there in like 5 minutes, get it together. And I was like, damn, this song is good. I was like, yeah, I know, we put it on the playlist for a reason. So I'm doing the whole journaling portion, watch people immediately start writing. And I was like, yes, it's exactly what I wanted, because you can see them just like getting all their thoughts down that they were clearly thinking about either during the presentation or during the practice. And I mean, afterwards, it's just like they can take their journal and continue on with those. And it's kind of like passing the manuscript on, which is one of the songs off the album. And yeah, that was it. I had a lot of people come up to me and they were like, I didn't really give a shit about Taylor Swift, but I went. And I was like, well, you took a roll the dice there, baby.
The differ.
And I was like, okay. And but they were like, I see it, and like I see what you were saying. And I was listening to this one song that I heard in Shavasana, and I remember like you saying how it's a combination of being angry and in denial. And I was like, that's just so interesting how it does play into my life. And I was like, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Like, that's amazing. And I mean, I couldn't have asked to do it with anybody better than Haley, just because like we're so similar in that sense. And we didn't plan to have that open dialogue, but I didn't want to like stop the presentation and be like, let's open the floor. And I looked at her and she didn't look at me and she was like, I think I want to open up for discussion. I was like, I love this girl. This is why we're doing it. This is why like we're so in sync. And the timing was like impeccable. We ended exactly when we were supposed to, and we thought we were going way over, and it just couldn't have been a better experience. And I'd love to do it again. But yeah, I was just mind blown. And again, I wouldn't even have had that opportunity if it wasn't for Chrissy being like, wow, you're so passionate about this. Like, let's give that a chance. Like, that's what's so cool about that. Like, hey, you love something like as like simple as Taylor Swift as millions of other people do, but like, why don't we put this on people who don't know that much? And it turns into a learning opportunity. It turns into a emotional experience. It turns into a therapeutic session. And I was like, holy shit, I think I sweat through my fucking shirt though. I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot of it was hot in
Your
there.
mom said, we were talking about this on the retreat, and Chris was like, oh yeah, the back of her shirt was just black, was just so dark gray.
Thanks, babe. Like if she, that's so cool.
Maddie, you should start like a
awful. It was so hot in there. The humidity was like 60 something, and I'm in Restore, and I'm like, what's happening?
Like I sweat. Like anytime that I'm up there for YTT, like I'm fucking hot.
You know what's going on. You know what you're talking about. Why am I sweating bullets?
Yeah, because I'm scared. I mean, that's what I tell myself. Like,
well, I remember like I was getting the anxiety, and it wasn't even like, oh my God, I have to talk in front of people. It was just like, well, I'm putting this pressure on myself. And I remember texting Hannah, and she was like, when you get nervous, it's because you care. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
that's such like, it's so simple of a line. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, like I tend to feel a lot more deeply than a lot of my friends. And I think that also plays into like when I really care about something and I want something to do well, it can channel into anxiety, and it's not even making me anxious. I'm like making it an anxiety thing. It's like, no, this is just exciting. And you need to like dial it down. Yeah.
Maddie, you should host like not a book club, but like a Swifty lyrics CD listening club where you all listen to an album and you sit down once a week and you chat about it. Honestly, because like people do that stuff. And if that's something you wanted to do regularly, people would come and it is, like you said, it's therapeutic. It's like a space that people create for themselves to go and talk about how they feel in like a way that makes sense to them. And like, I don't know, that seems like something that would be fun.
It's like a reminder that like we're all interwoven in this like tapestry of life, and we're really not that different, because like if we can relate truly genuinely, like you said, if you take Taylor Swift's name away and you take the pop starriness away, and we can connect and like say that we're going through very similar experiences as Taylor Swift, then like we're not that fucking different.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're not that far from her, then we're a lot closer to each other than we think.
And I was just talking about this with someone, but like there's one song, and I'm not going to get into a whole nitty gritty of Taylor Swift lyrics right now, but there's this one song called The Black Dog where she blatantly starts out like, I move through a world heartbroken, which is such like a very vulnerable confession. And then at the end, it's very similar in the sense when you're talking to a friend, you're like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. And they're like, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I'm like a little sad, but like, I'm good. And then towards the end of the song, she was like, actually, like, I want to sell my house and set fire to all my clothes and hire a priest to come and exorcise my demons so I can rid you of my memory. Like, whoa, that's a crazy thing to say, but it's also like, when you're talking to a friend, you're like, I don't want to get too vulnerable. Like, I'm having a lot of dark thoughts. And like, to write that in a song and put that out there for millions to hear, and one person is just like, yeah, like that's how I felt, but I didn't think I could say that. And that's a lot of people in that workshop was just like, yeah, I felt super dark like that, but I didn't think it was appropriate for me to say that.
I thought I was like, there was something wrong with me because I felt that way.
Exactly. And that's why, I mean, I think this album is the most vulnerable it's ever been, which is why Haley and I were like, let's do a workshop about this and explain why it is. And I mean, I would do that shit in a heartbeat.
You could probably, I mean, you will expand upon it, but you could probably do that exact same workshop again and be like, if you are the first one, you're not allowed to come, and still sell it out.
I mean, so many people came up to me and they're like, I'm so pissed. And I was like, all right, great start. They're like, I was out of town. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, they're like, please do it again. Please do it again. And I was like, I'll like come to your house. Like, I don't like, it's not like I'll put on my laptop. Like, I can do it again. And then someone was like at the Eras tour, and I was like, I think you might have had a better experience at the Eras tour. I don't feel bad for you, but congratulations. I'll look into doing it again. I mean, doing it at all was just like so fucking cool. And I literally signed Haley up before I asked her. I was like, yes, she would love to. And I texted her, she's like, if I said no, check my fucking pulse. Yeah, that doesn't add up. That's so true. I literally was like, no. But yeah, it was, again, going back to like circling way back, that opportunity would never have happened if it wasn't being in a community of people who see your interests and realize like things that come from it.
Yeah.
I was mind blown. I mean, again, like, she's a Swiftie, so like, love that, but still,
also
like
Chrissy does that. Like, the reason we're talking about it is because she genuinely does that for everybody.
yeah, exactly.
Like, we met with Phoebe yesterday, and she's gonna host a yin training, and we're gonna put a yin class on our schedule, like,
That's so
weekly.
cool.
And I said it on the podcast, but I'm putting it in the teacher announcement, so I think it's allowed.
Woo!
And that's just
There
like
you
one
go.
example. I mean, that's why like I'm doing the 300 hour, because I actually was like, okay, I'll do it next year starting in April. And Chrissy was like, why don't you do it this year starting in June? And I was like,
Oh, okay.
she was like, you got this. You're ready. Let's go.
Yeah,
Boom, like
exactly.
tap tap. Come on.
Like pushing a
And
little
I was
baby
like,
bird out the
Amber?
nest.
Exactly. And she's like,
Actually taking a baby bird out the nest.
yeah.
Get the fuck out.
And yeah, she really does it for everyone. Like, I know that Nicole is working on creating a coloring book. Yeah, of all of the staff.
Stop.
Yeah,
Not you just dropping these random Easter eggs.
I know. So I guess I hope people listen to the podcast, but I also hope that they don't.
Oh. Well, I mean, the stuff that she draws on the whiteboard, I'm like, I can't even draw people's fucking names.
Julie asked her if she wanted to do a coloring book for, I think, like the holidays or something. And then Nicole was like, well, I really like to do portraits. So what if I do it of all the staff?
I'm gonna carry
that. I want Nicole in my pocket too. Nicole, can you come in our pocket?
I mean, she's like one of the first people I met, like I think on my first day, and I was like, I'm gonna like this girl, and now she's one of my best friends.
I've never met anyone like Nicole.
I don't think anyone could meet Nicole and not like her. That would be very hard.
So for the sake of time, we could literally talk for hours.
Yeah.
But our last question that we always ask everyone, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
It's a very loaded question, but I don't think that like yoga itself can do that, but I see the way it changed me and the person that I was at that time, where I was like, nothing could break through this mindset that I had, and the way it impacted me and how it has shifted my relationships with people, the way I just like move through the world. So I think if you allow it and you let it in, it can impact your relationships with yourself and other people, and therefore impact the world. So I think you just have to let it and open the door when it does come knocking, because sometimes you'll be like, no, it's not for me, but it's showing up for a reason. And it totally changed my world. It changed everything about me, quite literally, for the better. So I think if you just allow it to help you and allow it in and see what it does, it can therefore impact other people, and then I guess the world. It plays like a domino cycle. Yeah,
that's the juice.
That literally is a crazy.
When we did this with Brad Chonwish, I'll never forget. He goes, "Looks like you're doing something else."
He's right. Yeah, damn right. Because that was crazy.
Out said that looks like a dildo.
Well, I mean, that's keeping it real, but I wasn't gonna say it.
But yes, that is the juice. But that is the juice.
It is the absolute juice and black pepper cracker dildo.
I hate that. I just like wish I could like rewind like 15 seconds where I didn't hear that sentence.
All right. Well, thank you.
Well, Maddie, this is why I was your court jester in a past life. We were
gotta get
cracking jokes about royal
I
dildos.
should go have your past life have like someone read like what
We need to go to Rhonda.
regression.
Montana's got some special lady named Rhonda that apparently is creepily accurate.
So many people are reaching out after Dominique's episode. They're like, "Give me Rhonda's information." I'm like, "Here you go."
Rhonda should be paying you a fucking
no,
commission.
no. I'm like, Rhonda, can I just come see you again? Will you just
Yeah.
squeeze me in your schedule? That's all
Give
I
me a
ask.
freebie. I'm
Oh,
sending so many
I'll
people
take
your way.
all the money. Just tell me that I can come.
You should just walk
Do you have to go in person or can you do it on the phone?
Either or, but I would highly recommend going in person. It's like
Maddie, what if we walked in together and she was like, you two?
Jester,
yeah.
Jester, England, just throwing words at us. No, we walk in screaming, was she a work jester?
And the
she's
thing
like,
is, she actually does kind of do it with words. And so it would track that she'd be like, why is England coming through? Why do I see a funny hat?
May.
One of you is wearing a funny hat. I normally only see in black and white, but I can tell this is colorful.
Like, I'm seeing
All right, that's it. We got to go see Rhonda separate and then together.
Maybe I just have to go to England. I have a vision of being in a cafe writing with a little cup of tea. I mean, Miranda said, if you ever want to stay with me, and I was like, say less. We're on our way, me and May. Like,
we're on our way.
Go.
Hey.
Yeah, I didn't mean to rhyme, but happens.
Yay.
Because you're the court jester in this lifetime.
Still are. All right, you guys. Everyone, thanks for listening. Maddie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming over to my house and letting Levi snuggle under your feet for an hour.
When you guys asked me, I thought I was like being punked very briefly. I was like, are you sure?
We would never.
We're like, hey, Maddie, you want to be on the yoga chat?
It's like right after we finished taking a yoga class, and we're like, Maddie, be on the yoga chat. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, and we're like, tomorrow?
Yeah, seriously.
Yay. All right. Well, this is gonna air like right now, so in like an hour.
Woo.
Yeah.
2.
All right. Anything else you want to say?
Thanks, Maddie.
No, just thanks for having me. I mean, you guys have, I was just saying I was like really interested in doing YTT and stuff, but I was like, I need to learn from you two. Like you guys are just, I just fucking love you guys. Don't make me cry.
We love you back.
Not right now. We're not doing that. This is the end. Okay.
May say a butt joke. Tell us a butt joke.
A butt joke?
Oh, she's actually gonna do it.
Did you see the wheels turning?
Yeah.
She looked up like, oh God.
The first time that I couldn't just think of one off the top of my head. I'm really annoyed. Stay tuned.
I'm just gonna get a text.
All right. Well, we love you. I'm trying to make balloons, but it's not working. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.